Somewhere in the Arctic, and when I say somewhere, I mean far north, further than almost anyone had gone, in a time before anyone had mapped it properly, there is a ship locked in ice. It's quiet up there, remarkably quiet, the kind of quiet that has a texture to it. The small sounds of cold, the occasional groan of the hull against the freeze, the wind moving across the white nothing in every direction. The crew are tired. They came here willingly, most of them, following a captain with a vision, a man named Walton, who had spent the better part of his adult life wanting to reach the North Pole, wanting to be the person who got there first, who saw what no one else had seen. He is the one writing letters to his sister back in England. Long letters, careful ones. He misses her. He's lonely up here, in a way that leadership doesn't quite fix. You can be surrounded by people and still be the only one in the room who is truly alone, which is something Walton understands without being able to explain it. He is also, though he might not say this in a letter, a little frightened. And then one morning, or what passes for morning this far north, the light being its own strange constant, the crew spots something on the ice. A sledge, dogs, a figure, very tall, moving away from them across the white. They watch it until it's gone. The next day, they find another sledge. This one is barely moving. The man on it is almost dead. They bring him aboard. They wrap him in blankets. They give him soup. They sit with him while he shivers back into something like consciousness. His name is Viktor Frankenstein. He is from Geneva. He's been out here, in the Arctic, in the ice, chasing something or someone, and he's not yet ready to give up, even though his body is very clearly done with the whole enterprise. Walton sits with him. He listens, and Viktor, perhaps because he is too exhausted to keep it in any longer, begins to talk. And what we're going to spend our time with tonight is the whole story, from the beginning. And it begins, as so many things do, with a young man who was certain he was right. Geneva is beautiful in the way that places can be beautiful when you've grown up in them and don't quite see it yet. The lake, the mountains at the edge of things, the clean, cold air. Viktor Frankenstein grew up there, comfortably, loved, the eldest child in a family that had both money and warmth, which is not always a combination you get. His parents were good people. His father, Alphonse, was the kind of man who thought carefully about his responsibilities to others and then acted on them, which is how Viktor ended up with a companion, a girl called Elizabeth Lavenza, discovered in a poor Italian family and brought home, more or less adopted, loved immediately and permanently by everyone in the house. Elizabeth was luminous, That's not my word. It's the word that circles her throughout the novel in various forms. She had that quality of making the people around her feel more settled, more sure. Viktor loved her from childhood. He always assumed they would marry. It seemed as inevitable as weather. He also had a best friend, Henry Clerval, the son of a merchant, a boy who wanted to be a poet and adventurer, and was kind enough to befriend a child who was, let's say, somewhat intense. Because Viktor was intense, even as a small boy. He found a volume of Cornelius Agrippa, a Renaissance natural philosopher, the sort of writer who sat at the edge between science and alchemy, and didn't seem troubled by that. And he read it with complete absorption. His father glanced at it and said something dismissive, something like, "This is rubbish," and moved on. Which was the wrong thing to say to Viktor Frankenstein, who then read everything Agrippa had ever written. He was interested in the big questions. Not just, how does this work? But, what is the fundamental principle underneath it? What is life? What separates living matter from dead? Where is the line, and is it possible to cross it? He went to university in Ingolstadt, and there, at 17, he found professors who took the questions seriously. Or at least one of them did. A man named Waldman, who gave a lecture in Viktor's first week that essentially set the course of everything that followed. Waldman talked about the alchemists with respect, not contempt. He said that modern science had achieved things those old writers could only dream of, but that the questions they were asking, the deep, audacious questions, were the right ones. Viktor left that lecture a different person to the one who had walked in. He worked. He worked the way some people do when they found the thing that was waiting for them. With a kind of frightening single-mindedness, days bleeding into weeks, the world outside the laboratory becoming progressively less real. He spent a great deal of time in charnel houses, in graveyards, studying decomposition, studying anatomy, studying the mechanisms of the body with a precision that his colleagues found a little unsettling. He made a discovery. Mary Shelley doesn't tell us what it was, and this is deliberate. We're not given the secret. We only know that Viktor found it, that it worked, and that with it he believed he could animate dead matter. He decided to build a human being. He decided, in a moment of extraordinary ambition, to make it large, 8 feet tall, proportionally built, because working at scale would be easier. He collected materials, piece by piece, over months. And then one November night, in a room by lamplight, at 1 a.m, the thing on the table opened its eyes. And Viktor ran. Here is where the story changes register. Here is where it becomes something else. Because the novel doesn't follow Viktor out of the room. Or rather, it does, briefly, and then it leaves him to his nightmares, and his fever, and his relief at not having to look at what he's made. And it turns its full attention to the creature. We don't go there immediately. Shelley builds to it. But when she gets there, when the creature is given his own voice, his own chapters, his own account of his first year of existence, this is where the book becomes genuinely extraordinary. He woke up alone. His maker was gone. He had no language, no knowledge, no context for anything he was experiencing. Sensation flooding in from every direction, light and cold and hunger, and the immense, bewildering fact of being. He made his way out of Ingolstadt, into the woods, and spent weeks learning the world from the outside. How to find food, how to make a fire, eventually, after watching a woodcutter. How to move through a landscape that was overwhelming in its detail. He found a village. He walked into it, hopefully. The response was, to put it gently, not welcoming. People screamed. People threw things. He fled. He found, eventually, a small structure. A hovel, really, lean-to beside a cottage, and he hid there. And through a crack in the wall, over the following months, he watched the family that lived inside. The de Lacys, a father, old and blind, a son, Felix, a daughter, Agatha. They were poor, exiled from France on political grounds. A story that unfolds gradually through the creatures watching. But they were kind to each other, and this kindness was something the creature absorbed with the intensity of a person who has never seen it directed at themselves. He watched them through autumn, through winter. He learned their names. He started to understand what language was, what the sounds they made corresponded to. He stole small amounts of food at first, then stopped when he noticed they were going hungry, and instead began leaving wood outside the door anonymously, a gift they couldn't account for. Felix called it a good spirit. The creature heard this and held it close. A young woman named Sophia arrived in spring, Felix's sweetheart, who had made her way to them from Turkey alone, which is a whole other story. She didn't speak French, and so Felix taught her, and the creature, through the wall, learned alongside her. Language opened. The world became speakable. He found books in a bag nearby. Paradise Lost, Plutarch's Lives, The Sorrows of Young Werther. He read them. He absorbed them. And Paradise Lost in particular did something to him. He recognized in the story of Adam and Satan both his own situation and his confusion about which one he was. Created, then abandoned, loving the maker who had left. Unsure whether his instinct for beauty and connection made him good, or whether the darkness growing in him made him something else. He found, in the pocket of the coat he had taken from Viktor's room when he fled, a journal. Viktor's own account of the creation, written with horror and revulsion at what the creature was, what he looked like. The creature read it. He understood then what he was to his maker. He decided to reveal himself to the de Lacys, to make himself known carefully. He chose the father first, blind, therefore unable to recoil from his face, and also kind, observably kind, the sort of person who might listen. He walked in one afternoon when Felix and Agatha were away. He sat down. He talked. The old man listened, asked questions, was curious, even warm. Then Felix came home. What followed was brief and violent. Felix, seeing a monstrous figure crouched beside his father, attacked. The creature, who could have harmed him very badly, did not. He ran. He came back the next day to find the cottage empty. The family had left, and they had left because of him. He burned the cottage down. It's worth noting that Shelley gives him this moment, the destruction, and doesn't soften it. This is also him. The capacity for rage and grief expressing itself in fire. He is not only the wronged innocent, he is also this. He began to move south, towards Geneva, towards Viktor. By the time the creature found Viktor's younger brother William in the woods outside Geneva, something had curdled in him. He approached the boy, hoping, that a child might not yet have learned to see a face and feel fear. But William screamed and struggled and said the name Frankenstein, and the creature killed him. It was the first death, not the last. He found a woman sleeping in a barn. Justine, a servant in the Frankenstein household, innocent of everything, and put Viktor's locket in her pocket, and she was tried for William's murder and hanged for it. Viktor knew she was innocent. He couldn't explain how he knew without explaining everything, and he didn't. Justine died. This one sits heavily. It sits heavily in the novel too. And then the creature found Viktor on the Glacier at Montanvert, a vast and beautiful waste of ice in the Alps, which Shelley chose deliberately as the setting, I think, because it has the quality of the sublime. Enormous, indifferent, neither good nor bad. Viktor demanded explanation. The creature demanded to be heard. He gave his account, the whole account, everything I've just told you, and then he made his request. He asked for a companion. Make me someone like me, he said. Not beautiful, not human, just not alone. A creature for a creature. Someone who will not run from my face, because she will have a face like mine. I will take her somewhere no one will find us. We will disappear, I give you my word. Viktor thought about it for a long time. He agreed. Viktor travelled to England, and then to the remote Scottish Orkney Islands to complete the work somewhere he couldn't be observed. He set up a laboratory. He started. But as the months went on and the second creature took shape, as he looked at what he was doing and thought about what it meant, he stopped. He thought about two creatures moving through the world together. He thought about what they might do, what they might want, how a species begins. He thought about whether they might have children, and what those children might be, and whether he had the right to unleash something that large and that unknown into the future of the world. He looked at the half-finished creature on the table, and he tore it apart. The creature had been watching through the window. He appeared at Viktor's door. He asked very quietly, "Why?" Viktor didn't have an answer that was sufficient, and the creature, who had been patient for a very long time, made a promise. "I will be with you on your wedding night." Then he left. Hovel next. Viktor's oldest friend, the poet, the kind one. Viktor found the body and collapsed, spent months in prison delirious with fever, and was only released when the authorities accepted, eventually, that he couldn't have done it. He went home. He married Elizabeth, because what else do you do when the world has collapsed around you but reach for the thing you've always loved? They went to a small inn on the shores of Lake Como for their wedding night. He had told Elizabeth to stay inside. He went to search the rooms and corridors, looking for the creature, because he had interpreted "I will be with you on your wedding night," as a threat against himself. He was not in the room when the creature came through the window. He heard the scream. He ran back. Elizabeth was already gone. She was by the window, draped across the sill, and she was dead. His father, Alphonse, died not long after. The shock of it, losing Elizabeth, learning the truth of what had accumulated over the years, was too much for a man already old and grieving. Viktor was alone now, in a way that had no bottom to it. He followed the creature north. The creature, it became clear, was leading, leaving food sometimes, leaving marks, keeping Viktor alive, keeping him moving. There's something in this that I find almost unbearable to think about for too long. The creature was not trying to escape. He was doing something else. Something that looked, from a certain angle, like the only relationship he had. He led Viktor into the Arctic, onto the ice, into the cold that kills quietly without drama. And that's where Walton found him. Viktor spent his remaining weeks aboard the ship. He told Walton everything. He extracted a promise that Walton would continue if Viktor died. They would find the creature and destroy it. Viktor did die, quietly in his bunk, with Walton beside him. And then Walton heard a sound from the cabin and went in and found the creature there, standing over Viktor's body. He was weeping. told Walton not to condemn him. He said, "You think I don't know what I did. You think I feel nothing." He said that every murder had cost him something, that he had committed them in the full knowledge of what they were, and that each one had taken something from him that could not be returned. He said that Viktor was the only connection he had to the world, and now that connection was severed, there was nothing. He said he was going to travel north, further than the ship, into the ice. He said he was going to build a pyre and burn himself on it. He said he was glad it would be over. He went out through the window. Walton watched him move away across the ice. He became very small, and then he was gone. Mary Shelley wrote this at 19. She revised it at 25, and the version most people read is that one, tighter, clearer, and with some of the more gothic excesses pulled back, but the heart of it unchanged. She had already lost a child by the time she published it. She would lose more. She had grown up without a mother. Mary Wollstonecraft died 11 days after giving birth to her. And the question of what we owe the things that we bring into the world, and what happens when we fail them, was not an abstract one for Shelley. It had a specific shape in her life, and that shape, I think, is what makes the novel feel so much larger than its plot. It's not a horror story in the end. Or it is, but that's not why it lasted. It's a book about a creature who only ever wanted to be known, who was eloquent and self-aware and genuinely wronged, and who was also capable of terrible things, and who was both of these at once, simultaneously, without resolution. Shelley never resolves it. She's not interested in resolving it. She asks you to sit with the discomfort of a character who is everything at once, and she trusts you to manage it. The creature has no name. Viktor never gave him one. Nobody did. He is referred to in the novel as the creature, the monster, the demon, the wretch. He calls himself at one point the fallen angel. He gives himself at another point a different name. He calls himself the Adam of your labours, asking Viktor to see him just once as the beginning of something rather than the end. Viktor didn't. The ice is very still on there. The light is constant. Somewhere north of everything, it's very quiet now. Thanks for watching this video. Remember to like and subscribe to the Literary Buffet for the 20-minute deep dive, 5-minute version of Shelley's Frankenstein, and 45-minute sleep story versions of other classic literary tales.